Welcome to Poetry Changes Lives, poetry and history meeting together in a little book with a thought for the day, every day of the year. You can get it on my website, poetrychangeslives.com. Today, in 1951, a very remarkable one-off man called Jack Kerouac was starting to write his defining novel of the 20th century post-war beat generation in America, called On the Road. In those days they didn't have computers. He used a typewriter, but in his inimitable way he wanted it to be a stream of consciousness novel without any breaks. So he got a lot of pieces of paper and stuck them all together into a very, very long 120 feet scroll of writing paper that he fed the first page into the typewriter, sat down at his kitchen table with a typewriter in front of him and started typing. And he went on typing until he'd finished. And it took him maybe a couple of weeks to write that whole novel called On the Road, which is a kind of novel, a story of a journey through life and a real physical journey across America by road. Jack Kerouac was a complete one-off, and I remember reading his novel for the first time when I was just left school and come to work in London, and I was, completely driven by convention at that time, trying to meet people's expectations that I would make a career as an accountant or something and live a staid, humdrum life. And it hadn't occurred to me that people could live in a different way. And suddenly I read this book about this man, Jack Kerouac, who just completely broke conventions and decided he was going to do things his way, driven by his love for new things, discovering life, discovering the world. And it was just so intoxicating to read it, and it made me think, wow, there's more to life than I've been led to believe. Thank you, Jack Kerouac. Sadly, he died in his 40s, I think, of alcohol-induced illness. But boy, what a man he was. And his book, if you haven't read it, On the Road, it's a great book to read even today, 70 years later, 75 years later. Kerouac wrote this. He was a great admirer of other stream of consciousness writers like James Joyce particularly, and so many great books are about journeys, and this one, On the Road, is a prime example. Gosh, the poem I'm going to read today is one Kerouac may have known. It's written by a man called Robert E. Howard, an American who sadly shot himself in 1936. I think he must have been a bit of a drug taker himself. He was a writer of pulp fiction mainly, and I very much like this poem, though it's very ornate, full of a lot of wild sort of adjectives and a lot of wild imagery, but as a sort of a contrast to the very sort of minimalist poetry that a lot of people were writing in the 20th century at that time, I think this is a bit of a welcome relief. I wouldn't want poetry like this all the time, but it's like sort of coming across a box of chocolates and eating them all at once, I think, when you read a poem like this. See what you think. It's called Always Comes Evening. It's a bit sort of world-weary, a bit sort of full of wild images, as I say. Here we are. Riding down the road at evening with the stars o'er steed and shoon, I have heard an old man singing underneath a copper moon. God, who gemmed with topaz twilights opal portals of the day, on our amaranthine mountains, why make human souls of clay? For I rode the moon mare's horses in the glory of my youth, wrestled with the hills at sunset till I met brass tinctured truth, till I saw the temples topple, till I saw the idols reel, till my brain had turned to iron and my heart had turned to steel. Satan, Satan, brother Satan, fill my soul with frozen fire, feed with hearts of rose-white women, ashes of my dead desire. For my road runs out in thistles, and my dreams have turned to dust, and my pinions fade and falter to the raven wings of rust. Riding down the road at evening when the wind was on the sea, I have heard an old man singing, and he sang most drearily. Strange to hear, when dark lakes shimmer to the wailing of the loon, amethystine Homer singing under evening's copper moon. Wow, I think that was written under the influence of some sort of mood-altering substance, but I like it. It's a sort of welcome interest into my mind, gives me new images in my head. Thank you for listening. Today, I look forward to tolerance of others. I will do my best. Thank you.